What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content with your boy Chris Kane. Let's talk about the Dolphins. So the Dolphins met with Ruel Douglas last week on the low. This wasn't like widely publicized. It was a meeting, a tryout more or less to just figure out, is there a deal we can come to? Happy to hear it because we've mentioned him a number of times and the idea that we need a veteran corner. I thought we had maybe filled a position with Kendall, but evidently not. So they met with Ruel, did the workout. Dolphins were impressed. They made him an offer. And Ruel said, nah. Now, they didn't disclose the terms of the offer, but it's from what I've read and what I've seen, it seems very much the number didn't match the number he wanted, which we said this whole offseason up to now, everything has basically been a money play. There's plenty of guys we would want to go after. We don't have the money to do it. We thought maybe Ruel would take some kind of a haircut because he's 30 and he's a cornerback and whatever. Um, Evidently, we lowballed him too much. He's actually now visiting the Seahawks, and the Seahawks also need a cornerback. So if it works out for him up there, then he'll probably sign with the Seahawks by the time you see this, maybe the day afterwards. If he doesn't sign with the Seahawks, that does open up some interesting possibilities where maybe the Dolphins think, all right, we're going to offer you this. You want that, but we don't think anyone's going to pay you that, right? So he might visit the Seahawks. They might make an identical offer. I assume his agent is calling Seattle saying Dolphins are offering $7 million a year, and if Seattle says 7.5, they might get him, right? But if Seattle doesn't want him that badly, they might kind of give the same offer and say, hey, do you want to play with us and Sam Darnold? Or do you want to play down there with Tua? And then you make a choice. If they really want him, though, it seems likely because we were the first team to visit him, and his agent for sure is going to give them the number. Even if it's a fake number, he'll give a number. If Seattle wants him, they will make the number. If it's $7 million a year, $8 million a year, $9 million a year, they might do it for a year and then a player option for the second year or something like that. But they'll figure it out. So unless he just bombs in the workout or they don't think he fits the offense, then I assume he'll be a Seahawk. This is disappointing as a Dolphin fan because we were looking for that veteran corner that we thought should be able to start, not a veteran corner we think should be fighting for a third or fourth corner position. I think Ruel day one would have been penciled in as a starter. It comes down to money, and we don't have a lot of money. And unless we are willing to do more restructuring, which it seems like Chris Greer is not trying to do right now, because again, when you restructure, you're committing to the player longer, and he seems to be in that I'm in a 1-2 year window with basically the whole team. So you can't be committed to guys for 5-6 years and turn the team over. Those two are incompatible. So if his philosophy is 1-2 years, maybe turn it over, then yeah, we're kind of stuck with the money we have. And Ruel would have been really solid. Again, he's not. This is not Pat Surtain or Derek Stingley. He's good, but he's not like crazy elite. For us, he would have been really good, but in general, he's not the greatest in the world. So yeah, we will almost certainly not be resigning. I almost certainly will not be signing Ruel Douglas. So what are you gonna do? Dolphins did make a move in the offseason, though. We did offseason yesterday. We signed Matthew Butler from the Raiders. Now I mentioned a few episodes ago that I believe the Dolphins' positioning is going to be there's a few guys on teams that are like kind of on a cut bubble line that we might have an interest in. So instead of like making a trade or spending a bunch of money, we're going to wait for these guys to get cut and then come in and scoop it up. And that's basically what happened here, right? Matthew Butler is not some like all-world player. This is basically a move for depth. That's all it is. He's 6'3", 290. He's 25, so he's pretty young, but he's been in the league already. So think of him like a old rookie more than like some guy you're going to build your franchise around. I assume he'll be in a rotation with Benito and the rest of those guys. But, he's a little bit more experienced. He went to Tennessee. He only started one game last year. Wasn't remarkable. Just a big guy in the middle. Decent against the run. Not particularly great against the pass. But when you need bodies to circulate people in, you trust someone who's been in the league for a few years. Versus, hey, I hope this 21, 22-year-old pans out. Makes sense to me. Very low risk, low money, but he wants a chance to prove himself. I mean, he just got cut. So anyone that gets cut, my feeling is they're looking to get to the next team because the next team is going to give them a chance to really show themselves, right? If you got cut, that means that we don't think you're good enough for our roster or there's somebody behind you that we think is better and cheaper. So when you get cut and you get picked up, it's like, hey, I gotta show you that y'all made a mistake. That's my general idea about getting cut. It's not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's just a cap casualty. Like, hey, we love you. We would love for you to stay, but we can't pay you. We could have paid you 2 years ago when we gave you the contract. 3 years later, now we can't pay you. I think that's what's happening with like Hendrickson up in Cincinnati. Hey, we gave you a contract a couple years ago. Now our money's tied up in like 4 players. Can't pay you. Doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just means you don't work here, right? So I think Matthew is going to be a solid player. I mean, I don't expect him to play more than probably 25, 30 plays a game. But I do think he's a good rotational piece. I love having young guys. Not a long-term contract like most of our contracts. But he's someone to help fill out the team. And, D-line was so deficient for us that we legit spent our number one pick on it. So anything that we can do to help fortify that part of the line, I'm cool with. I think it's a solid move. Not going to break any headlines. Not going to run out and get a jersey. Just going to make the team better on the margins. So they put a list out today about who's the most overpaid player on every team, right? And I was like, let me go to our team. I assumed they would actually say Tua because, if you think Tua is the 10th to 13th best quarterback in the league, but he's getting paid like the 6th best quarterback, then I think almost by definition that's overpaid, right? But no, they went with Jaylen Phillips. They said Jaylen Phillips is the most overpaid guy on the Dolphins. He's going to be a $13 million cap hit this year, and he's only played 12 games in the last 2 years. So if you want to think of it that way, that makes sense. I don't disagree with their take, actually, because $13 million for an outside linebacker defensive end is pretty good money. That's basically you're either close to you're probably our second best DN at this point. And he's only shown in one of his years that he had the potential to be that. Every other year he's been injured, right? So the idea that he's getting paid for production he really hasn't put up, I think almost by definition makes him overpaid. Now, I think it's well worth the risk because I think Jaylen Phillips at his best can be a 15-sack, Pro Bowl level player. He can be a guy you build around. Of course, the contract needs to be structured around injury stuff, but I think he's a really solid player. I'm here for it. I don't think $13 million is crazy for what he can give you. I do think it's very risky, but again, we gave our quarterback $53 million, who also is injury prone. So it seems like the team is not averse to giving money to someone they think has a high upside, but the floor is like the floor. The floor is, hey, you're not going to play for a year or a couple years. But the ceiling is you could be really good at your position. I do think he's overpaid, but the idea is that we're going to overpay him for this year. And if he doesn't produce this year, then he most likely won't be on the team next year. So I don't mind overpaying someone for a single year. This is what the whole idea of the franchise tag was for like a Kirk Cousins type player. There's some other guys in the league. We'll give you the franchise for a year. This is probably a little bit more than we want to pay you, but it's only 1 year. And if you ball, you get an extension. You get a real contract. If Jaylen Phillips does not ball this year, you're not getting the real money. He's going to get a 1-year deal at most. 2-year deal from somebody like, hey, there's still some upside there, but let's say he gets hurt this year. 3 of the last 4 years you've been injured. How could I possibly give you a long-term deal? Like, in what world would a owner and CEO of the company be like, yeah, let's give this guy some money? He's shown that he's not going to do his job consistently, right? That doesn't really make sense. But if he has a really good year, I think the Dolphins have already shown you we are willing to give him some cash, but he's got to earn it. So is he overpaid this year? Probably a little bit, probably. But so what? Like, what was the alternative? We didn't have a better option to go to. There was no one on the free agent market that is getting paid at that level that we think has the potential upside that he has. This is all a play. Like, Bradley Chubb took a pay cut because what he was getting paid, he wasn't producing at anymore. As simple as that. Hey, when we got Bradley Chubb, it was like, yo, man, he's a Pro Bowler for Broncos. I mean, he's going to get bigger and better as he goes along, and then that just really didn't happen. And then it was like, hey, we gave you an extension thinking we were getting this guy. But then we got this guy. So you got to pay the piper. Jaylen has shown you when he plays and he's healthy that he's a really high pressure rate. Never had like crazy stats. I think 10.5 is his highest sacks rate for 1 year. But his pressure rate is really high. Like, he gets near the quarterback a lot. He causes straight havoc when he's on the field. And his energy level is high. He's not coming off the field every 3 or 4 plays. He's an exact type of guy you want to build around. He's got a motor that's like in the ballpark of like a Max Crosby type. Max Crosby, I think, is like the ultimate version of what that is. But he's got the just destruction of, man, no one can really block this guy consistently. And he's passionate and he's from the area. Like, there's a lot of reasons like Jaylen Phillips, except, hey, you got to stay healthy. You got to play. So I actually don't hate the ranking. I think that's fair. I think they could have also said Jalen Waddle is overpaid given his production has been basically the same for 3 straight years, but he's getting paid in the top 10 to 12 of receivers. But Jalen is overpaid only because he hasn't really shown us what he could possibly be yet. And we're paying on promise. So I don't hate that ranking at all. Hopefully he balls out this year, and next year they say, hey, the Dolphins got a bargain last year with Jaylen Phillips, and then we all win. But we'll see what happens. But as always, guys, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. Thank y'all for the likes and subscribes. We appreciate all that. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.